Yeah, baby. I'm telling you, that you're hearing right now is the soundtrack of Chef Jon Favreau's new film. He wrote it, he directed, he stars in it. John, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, something about that music.
We got some good music in this movie.
That Latin beat, man.
Yes.
It just gets you going.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting right back into this. I love John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could love him more. He plays a guy named Martin, and he's loyal to a fault. How would you describe Leguizamo in Chef, your boy?
Well, look, I've been a fan because he's got that magic combo of being funny and being an improviser, but also being a great actor, and that's rare.
He said that you were the most generous director that he'd ever worked with, and why?
Really?
Why is that? 'Cause tell me about your
You might have
film.
caught whoever you said he said that to. He may have caught him at a good time. I don't know. He's worked with some great people, but I do like to make it a fun, good, creative environment. I try to make it for my actors how I like it. I like a lot of freedom. I like to be able to paraphrase the dialogue. I like to be able to discover moments that might not be in the script, as long as they serve the scene and the story. See, that's the important part. When Leguizamo makes stuff up, and he throws it in English and Spanish and everything, when he makes stuff up, that's a dude who's been staging in kitchens for months and training for this role, who worked with me in the kitchen at Roy Choi's restaurant at Sunny Spot. He put the work in. He did the research. And so when he makes something up, it makes things better, and it focuses the story more. He's not just going for laughs and going off the reservation trying to make the movie into the John Leguizamo show. He's truly a great supporting actor in this film, and I think it shows him in his best light. I know his work, and I know how to make him shine because I really respect him a lot. And so it's like setting up a volleyball spike. I can knock it towards him because I know he's going to smash it over the net. And he is, you know, the only thing frustrating about John Leguizamo, if I could be honest with you, is when you do test screenings, generally the lead of the movie tests 20 points higher than the supporting actor. Every time he like inched me out by a point or two. Now I will say, not to toot my own horn, but a weaker man would have recut the movie and made himself shine a little bit more. But honestly, when a supporting character steals the show, I feel like I've done my job as a director, because you want everybody to sparkle. And John has a very big supporting role. There are other people who have smaller supporting roles, but they each get their moment, whether it's Scarlett Johansson or Dustin Hoffman or Robert Downey Jr. Everybody when they have their scene or a few scenes that they're in, they get to shine and steal the show. And I think that's also what makes, like a good meal, what makes each course of Chef really rich, because everybody's bringing their specialty to bear.
That's Jon Favreau, and really another star of Chef is the food. So let's take it a step back. You said John was working the line, Leguizamo, and you were working the line.
Yeah.
It's great. Like Tom Hanks, if he's doing Apollo 13, he gets to meet Jim Lovell, the astronaut. You want to do a cooking film, you get to meet with Roy Choi.
But I really got to go to the moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you work in a kitchen, it's not like you're just... First, I shadowed Roy. And the first night I met him, I spent 6 hours with him, following him from restaurant to restaurant and truck to truck as he oversaw his whole operation. And it was like Tony Soprano picking up envelopes everywhere. You know, he goes in, he checks in with everybody, makes sure everything's being run right. He's encouraging, he's aware, he knows, he doesn't miss a beat. He knows everything that's in the walk-in. He knows every ingredient in the mise en place, the station that's set up. He tastes everything. He walks around with a handful of spoons, tastes every sauce, and he whispered to me as we're going through each kitchen what he's looking for and what he's noticing, and letting me taste the stuff along with him. Then slowly, first of all, then he sent me to culinary school. He said, "You will not set foot in my kitchen again until you have proper training," because nobody who'd come into to my kitchen would have no background. So he sent me off for very traditional French training. It was accelerated into a week or two.
Did you push back on that at all?
No, I love it.
Okay.
I loved it. You know, that's the blessing and the curse of being my age, is that you love to learn, but you're too old. Nobody wants to teach you anything anymore.
Right.
When you're young, you don't give a damn. you know. But now at my age, I love to learn things, especially something like cooking, because I'd read so much about it. I had seen so many movies and shows about it that to be actually like in the real training and doing it was fun. Learning the knife cuts and the mother sauces and the, you know, making demi-glace and all the cool things that a chef learns to do.
Any blood
in basic training? No, I'm pretty good with a knife.
Wow.
So I was safe. You know, you keep your fingers curled. If you follow the rules and you pay attention, you focus. Look, everyone makes mistakes. I got burnt a lot. Mm-hmm. That happens to everybody. But when it came to the knife, I always respected the knife. And so I worked my way there. Then I started doing prep work in his kitchen, and eventually I was on the hotline doing actual cooking during dinner service. And that's why I say I got to go to the moon. I got to experience what a real cook goes through.
You went to war.
I did. I got to be in the trenches and knew that if I screwed up, I was hurting this guy's business, who was really going way out of his way to train me and to prepare me for this role.
His standards brought you up.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I also learned from him and from the other chefs is, you know, there's a scene in the movie where the kid's going to serve a sandwich. They're giving out free sandwiches when they're sort of working out the kinks on the food truck. And one of these Cubanos that he's pressing gets a little overdone, a little burnt. And he says, you know, the dad says, why, you can't serve that? He says, what's the big deal? They're not paying for it. And he pulls him off the truck and gives him a speech about that this is, you know, what it means to be a chef and what it means to serve and taking pride in what you do. Mm-hmm. And this is really the heart of what I learned from being around these kitchens is from the chef down to the dishwasher, there is a military sense of loyalty and a high standard that they keep for themselves, for their own pride, for their respect for the craft. And they want the customer to be happy too. But even if nobody ever looked and there was never a health inspector, they would still keep it meticulously clean and keep everything fresh. And that's what they live for.
John, did anyone dress you down when you were on the line?
I got made fun of a little bit because I did an event where Roy snuck me into. There was a tasting menu that they did at the Bel Air Hotel, and he snuck me in as part of his crew. It was 3 chefs doing a 9-course meal. It was David Chang, Wolfgang Puck, and Roy. And as kind of my final, he brought me in as part of his small kitchen brigade to help him do his 3 dishes. And of course, I started off by just cleaning spot prawns and just doing prep work and carrying stuff around. I'm big. I'm good at carrying things, replenishing, you know, things that were being used up. By the end of the night, I was plating and I was actually part of the thing. And that's how it works. That's how a chef trains you. They bring you in and they work you up. And that's when David Chang saw me and started giving Roy a hard time. He realized who I was and why did he have me working? I was supposed to be watching, not working. And then and then they started saying, we want to see him cook something. And so Wolfgang Puck made me cook him an omelet in front of everybody because it was the end of the night. Mm-hmm. It was past the rush. Everybody was showing off what wines they had, and they were all sipping wine together. And there they were gathered around.
That's pretty meditative because Wolfgang knows like one of the basic things for a chef is how to make a decent omelet. Were you trained on that?
You know, not really.
Not really?
I mean, I knew from watching, I knew the basic technique, and but you know, you could learn everything about a chef by watching them cook an egg. You could tell a lot about their technique. And so he, you know, the first one I cooked for him, he threw in the ice bin, and he made me do it again. And I did it finally after doing it twice and not being up to his standards, and everybody getting a good laugh out of it, and me hopefully being a good sport. He then demonstrated, and there's a guy that you think he owns all these restaurants that he hasn't worked a station in years. It's not true. He cooked a perfect omelet right in front of everybody. And then once I saw how he wanted to do it, I was able to do it just like him. And that's what you learn when you're a cook. You learn how to pay attention to what chef wants and copy exactly every step that they show you, because that's your job. It's not to create something, it's to emulate their creation. And that was an interesting lesson. Being a cook is not being a chef, and I learned to be a cook, and I faked being a chef for the movie.
And the chefs, that's almost like a blank palette. You know, they have to wear a white uniform, but again, I think they have to show their how they're individuals in different ways. You did it through a look with these unique tattoos. I recognize a California bear.
That's
I recognize a knife.
Yes.
And then I think a fish.
Koi fish, yeah.
Okay, so give me the story of the physical exterior of Carl Casper.
Well, I always thought it was really cool. As an actor, you're always looking for fun, cool things to do and wear and accoutrements to help you. It's you're playing dress up, and part of what was available to me was temporary tattoos, and so we designed sleeves of temporary tattoos for me.
Looked actually real, which is so great.
Yeah, they were. They got that down pretty well. It looked good and faded, and I would wear it all week because you wouldn't want to take it off because it took over an hour to put them on every day. So I got to the point where I can make them last a full week.
Does that get in your psyche a little bit?
It's cool. You get a lot more attention from women, I noticed, when you have tattoos. Yeah, you'd think. An old guy like me. Women paid different attention to you, and dudes did. And also, it's just like when you walk in a room, and I'm at the level of fame where some people know who I am, but some don't. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big guy. I walk in a room, and if I'm wearing short sleeves and I got full sleeves of tattoos, I notice people treating you a little bit differently, which is great because that's part of what a chef, I think, part of why they do it is when the chef walks into a room, they fill the room. They are leaders. They're like generals. Mm-hmm. They have to lead their troops. They have to control a crowd out in the dining room. The wait staff has to listen to them. They have to command a certain amount of respect, mm-hmm. and they have to have a certain presence. And they're teachers too. So a chef could be a roly-poly guy who, if you saw him at Comic-Con, would be walking around with a backpack full of comic books.
Sure.
You take that same dude, you throw him in chef's whites, you throw tattoos on his arms, and you have him walk into a room with that energy, all of a sudden he looks like this powerful, important figure. And that's what makes them so captivating, I think, for people to watch on TV. Mm-hmm. Women, I could never, you'd be amazed at how women react to the chefs that I've been hanging around with. Wow. They're captivated by them. They're like rock stars. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was a fascinating world and an interesting story. And they're very vulnerable at the same time because they're so, they care so much about how people receive what they do and if people like the food they're cooking. So they were just interesting, layered people.
With scars, right?
With burn, yeah, that was another big thing. When I was working on the line, I would talk to the cooks. I'd say, I'm making a movie about a chef. Is there something I should keep in mind? And the thing I kept hearing was burns. And I didn't know what they meant. And they said, if you look at every cook and every chef, they have burns all along their forearms from pots and from oven doors. And it's something you wouldn't notice if you weren't a chef, but other chefs see it in the film. And then when I was on Top Chef as a judge with Roy, before we started filming, I knew about it, and I looked, and every single one of them, there were 6 chefs, contestants there, and all of them, all their arms were all scarred up with battle scars from burns.
Wow, incredible! Jon Favreau is in studio. We're talking about a film that's touched everyone, seems like through social media in so many different ways. We're going to talk about that next. You're listening to the Film Freak Movie Interview. Don't you dare move.